What's up, YouTube? Zero here, and today I have an absolutely epic Gengar and Indeedee deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. In this video, I'll go over the deck build that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. I'll talk about each of these cards individually, and I'll talk about why you should definitely be checking this deck out, why you're absolutely gonna love it, just like I love it. Not only because Gengar is my favorite Pokemon, but because this is actually a really fun and really great deck. I went up against some meta decks, and I was able to breeze through them. In this clip, you'll see I go through a Mega Blaziken deck, I went through a Decidueye deck, I was able to beat a Mega Gyarados deck, and I was able to beat a Hydreigon deck. So a lot of decks that I was able to defeat with this deck. This deck can really frustrate and throw off your opponents based off of the cards that are in this deck. But before I get into it, I do want to say, if you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG content. I do a bunch of other video games, so feel free to check those out as well. I've been posting a lot on Call of Duty recently, so if you're also a Call of Duty fan, make sure you check those videos out as well. Let's talk about Gengar EX. I have a couple of Gengars in this deck. Depending upon how the game is going, determines which one I may end up playing, but I'm gonna start with Gengar EX. Now, Gengar EX is gonna be found in the Genetic Apex Mewtwo packs. And in those Gengar cards lie one shot, which is Spooky Shot for 100, costs 3 Psychic Energy, so not necessarily great in terms of having to build up the energy for just 100 damage, but Gengar EX's bread and butter is in its ability, Shadowy Spellbind. Now, Shadowy Spellbind, as long as Gengar is in the active spot, your opponent can't use any supporter cards from their hand. So, if Gengar is in the active spot, you are going to shut down all of your opponent's supporter cards, which is actually pretty nice. Depending upon the deck you're facing, this can shut down a lot of different cards. It can shut down a healing from Lily. It could shut down a healing from Pokemon Center Lady. So that's healing from supporter cards off the board. It shuts down Cyrus and Sabrina, so you can move Pokemon to the bench that are damaged, and you don't have to worry about your opponent being able to drag them out into the active spot. If they're damaged, they can stay on the bench and you don't have to worry about it. If your opponent hasn't played Professor's Research, you stop Professor's Research. So Gengar, with its ability, can shut down a lot of different Pokemon, which is really nice. So I do love Gengar EX. But that's not the only Gengar I have in this deck. I also have a non-EX Gengar. And this non-EX Gengar has, for 1 Psychic Energy, Bother, deals 50 damage. This move also comes with an effect. Your opponent can't use any supporter cards from their hand during the next turn. So essentially, this Gengar, as long as it's attacked, has the ability effect of Gengar EX. So depending upon how the battle is flowing, I may choose to put this Gengar in the active slot just to stop my opponent from utilizing any supporter cards. I can also deal 50 damage. But this is a great card to supplement this deck as well, because it essentially does what Gengar EX does and doesn't cost as much energy to start attacking. Just for 1 energy, you can already start attacking, which is really nice. This Gengar is going to be found in the Genetic Apex Mewtwo packs as well. So you can really strategize with the 2 different Gengars in the deck, depending upon which one you get and how the game is flowing. So I do love having both of these in the deck. Non-EX Gengar can start you off. Gengar EX can finish you off, if that's how the battle just so happens to play out, because non-EX Gengar only costs 1 energy to start attacking, so that's pretty nice. Next, let's talk about the evolutions just because we need them. Ghastly, the one that's found in the genetic Apex Mewtwo packs, for 1 psychic energy, suffocating gas, deals 20 damage. Pretty basic. Then I have 1 Haunter in this deck for 1 psychic energy. Will-O-Wisp deals 30 damage. I do have the 1 Haunter in this deck, the one from the genetic Apex Mewtwo packs, just to be able to evolve into, give me an opportunity, another opportunity on top of the rare candies to evolve. It also helps avoid the nasty Chingling effect that I will talk about a little bit later because I have Chingling in this deck. But that Haunter is going to be found in the genetic Apex Mewtwo packs for 1 psychic energy, deals 30 damage. Let's talk about Indeedee EX, then I'll go back to Chingling. Indeedee EX has an ability and also a move. So Indeedee EX's move is Psychic. For 2 energy, deals 30 damage, but also has an effect. Psychic does 30 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So depending upon how much energy your opponent has on their active Pokemon, you could be dealing a significantly harder damage with Psychic. So if you're facing an Absol, a Mega Absol like I'm facing in this clip, if my opponent has the 2 energy attached, Indeedee EX will now deal 90 damage. Indeedee EX isn't going to be one that I really want to put in that active slot. I'm really hoping to get one of my 2 Gengars, but Indeedee can deal and pack a punch if I needed to. There are a lot of Pokemon that have a high energy cost that are going to need a lot of energy, and Indeedee can really hit them hard. But Indeedee is in this deck to really keep Gengar alive in that active slot. So Indeedee's ability is Watch Over. Once during your turn, you may heal 20 damage from your active Pokemon. So not only is, depending upon the Gengar, going to be annoying your opponent by stopping them from utilizing supporter cards, but you're going to be frustrating your opponent even more because Indeedee EX is going to be on the bench keeping your Gengar alive. So it's a 1-2 punch that is really frustrating for enemies, but it's really great to have when you're putting a deck together because you're keeping your active Pokemon alive, you're not allowing your opponent to implement his or her strategy, and you're implementing your will upon their deck. Indeedee EX is going to be found in the Mega Rising Mega Altaria packs. Really great card, not just for this deck, but for a lot of Psychic decks. Really great having Watch Over to heal Pokemon. Now let's talk about Chingling. Chingling is a phenomenal Pokemon. It is a baby card, so it doesn't require any energy, but it can really frustrate opponents. This deck is all about stopping your opponent from playing cards that he or she may want to play. So Chingling suits this deck perfectly. Not only does Chingling not require any energy to attack, but you can attack on your first turn because it doesn't require any energy, and it frustrates the opponent with its move, Jingly Noise. So it deals 10 damage, but that's not the bread and butter of this move. During your opponent's next turn, he or she can't play any item cards from their hand. So item cards, some very popular ones, like Pokeball and Rare Candy, can't be used by your opponent during his or her next turn. That's pretty awesome, considering you're going to be stopping your opponent from potentially evolving, you're going to be stopping your opponent from finding basic Pokemon in his or her deck. You can also potentially stop a red card, so you get to keep all of the cards in your hand and you don't have to worry about a red card if you're able to attack with Chingling. A lot of uses for Chingling and its move, but it's really phenomenal to start the match with, to start frustrating your opponent, to forbid them from utilizing item cards. Chingling can be found in any of the Mega Rising packs. Really great card, grind for it, it's great in a lot of different decks, not just this deck. A really phenomenal card. Now let's talk about the rest of this deck. So first, couple of basic cards that are pretty much in every deck. 2 Pokeballs, you put a random basic Pokemon from your deck into your hand. A lot of basic Pokemon in this deck, so this card is extremely important. And then Professor's Research, draw 2 cards. Pretty basic, but very necessary. Next, I want to talk about the Rare Candy, because I did mention it earlier. Rare Candy, if you've been playing the game for a while, you already know what it does. You already know that it's a great card. But in terms of this deck, if Ghastly has been on the playing field for at least 1 turn, and I have a Rare Candy and a Gengar in my hand, I can evolve right into Gengar, skipping the stage 1, or Haunter in terms of this deck. It's great to be able to evolve right into the stage 2, skipping Haunter. So I do have 2 Rare Candies in this deck. Again, I have Haunter, just in case 1, I don't pull a Rare Candy, or 2, I'm facing a Chingling and I can't get it out of the active spot for whatever reason. I can evolve into Haunter. So I do like having Haunter in this deck. And Rare Candy can be found in the Celestial Guardians packs. Next, a couple more supporter cards. 1, I have 2 Lilies, which you heal 60 damage from one of your stage 2 Pokemon. This is going to be great for healing my Gengars up. Gengar EX, as I mentioned earlier, takes a while to get going. 3 energy for 100 damage is a lot of energy to invest for just 100 damage. Really, Gengar's here to stop my opponent from utilizing supporter cards. So while I'm doing that, I want to make sure that I'm keeping my Gengar EX alive. Indeedee is going to help with that. Lily is going to help even more. So in 1 turn, I can actually heal up 80 damage, regardless of the Gengar. Could be non-EX Gengar, could be Gengar EX, but regardless, I can utilize Lily to keep that Gengar alive in that active spot. This is going to frustrate my opponent more. They can't use their supporter cards. I'm utilizing my supporter cards and keeping my active Pokemon alive as long as possible. So it's a phenomenal card to pair up with Gengar and in this deck. Lily is going to be found in the Celestial Guardian Solgaleo packs. Next, I have 1 of each of these cards. If you've watched my videos before, you know I love these 2 cards. They're only becoming better and better because you're going to want to get to your opponent's either weakened Pokemon or basic Pokemon before they evolve into perhaps their Mega Form that you don't want to deal with. So Sabrina, you switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench. Your opponent does get to choose the new active Pokemon, but this is a great card to have. For whatever reason, you may not want to deal with your opponent's active Pokemon, or you may want to try to get to a Pokemon on the bench. Sabrina is going to be a great way of doing that, which is why I love this card. Can really mess up your opponent's strategy, can really help implement your will upon your opponent. So Sabrina is phenomenal. Great card to have in every deck. You can never go wrong if you have a Sabrina. Sabrina is going to be found in the Genetic Apex Charizard packs. Next, Cyrus. Switch in one of your opponent's Pokemon that has damage on it to the active spot. This deck does not deal a lot of damage. You're going to be leaving a lot of Pokemon on your opponent's side able to be switched to the bench. Cyrus is going to make sure they don't stay on the bench. So I love at least 1 Cyrus in this deck. You could play around with 2 Sabrina or 2 Cyruses, but I like 1 of each just in case. But Cyrus is phenomenal to make sure if your opponent retreats one of their weakened Pokemon, they don't stay on the bench and you can finish that Pokemon off. So I do love Cyrus in this deck. And remember, if we're stopping our opponent with a Chingling from utilizing their item cards, if we're stopping our opponent with Gengar from utilizing their supporter cards, they can't utilize X-Speed, they can't utilize Leaf if they do have them, depending upon which Pokemon you're utilizing, which means they're going to have to use energy to retreat their Pokemon, which may be very difficult for them. So utilizing Sabrina and Cyrus really plays well into the strategy of this deck, which is why I do love having 1 of each. And Cyrus can be found in the Space Time Smackdown Palkia packs. So that's the deck. It is an absolutely phenomenal deck. I love utilizing this deck. It works really well with each Pokemon in this deck to really frustrate and throw off your opponent's strategy. Chingling is great to start off, stopping your opponent from utilizing his or her item cards. Gengar is great to come in and finish off your opponents and not allow them to use their supporter cards. Indeedee is great on the bench to help keep Gengar alive. It can also pack a punch if your opponent does have to equip a lot of energy onto their Pokemon to attack. Indeedee can come off the bench and really pack a punch to certain Pokemon that may need a lot of energy to be equipped on them. So I do love Indeedee, not just because of the healing, although that's really why it's here, but it can also pack a punch if I need it to. So I do like Indeedee. Great card as well. But this deck is really phenomenal, really great deck. Again, I love Gengar, really fun deck. And if you check this out, you're going to love it too. Let me know in the comment section if there's a certain Pokemon that you would like to see a deck built around. Let me know what you think of this deck in the comment section. Is this one you're going to check out? Is this one you've already been utilizing something similar? What cards would you switch in and out of this deck to make it even better? I'd love to hear it in the comments section. Thank you all for sticking around. Again, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon TCG content. It does really help out me and my channel. Thank you so much in advance for doing so. I really appreciate all the support. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day. Until next time, peace.